All right, let's do it.
This is really special for me.
Yeah.
We've never been on a podcast together, have we?
I don't think so.
Hey, before you left, where was he at? No.
Oh, let's go through that.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
Let's go through
That's what I'm
that.
saying. This would be so fun, dude.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Rizo with Mentality Unleashed. Back with my boy Brad, and this time we got his brother Kyle. So this is an exciting episode. I do want to mention our sponsor, the Covenant Coffee. The reason why, foster kids, emancipated youth. Has any of you guys worked with them? Worked with foster kids?
Quite a bit.
Pretty tough, huh?
Yep.
Not the easiest group to work with, but that's when you know it's somebody's calling.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You don't work with that population unless you know it's calling. So shout out to them, and they have great coffee. Mentality Unleashed, a little bit about what we're doing, a little bit about what this is one thing that I know is being a good husband, being a good father, being a good man of faith, not natural.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not natural at all.
Like it doesn't come natural?
Well, yeah, because think about it. Being a good husband means you're a one-woman man. We have hormones, we have testosterone, we have all these other things naturally leading us away, right? Opposed to what we want to do is lead people back the other way. And you know what I am? I'm a nerd. I'm a scientist. I can't stand when people give me their theories. I can't stand when people tell me what they think I should do because of this, they've read this somewhere. Or, oh, yeah, you should do this because I read it in a book, I studied, prepared.
Well, never go into ministry. That's all they do is bring their shoulds to you, right? It's like, you should.
You
That's
get
all
what
it
I'm
is.
saying?
You know what I'm saying?
So is it because you don't value the opinion, or is it because of like, what is the purpose behind that? Because I love opinions.
You know
and
what
I love
like?
You should listen to this.
This is what I like.
I'm quite the opposite.
I want this. I want to hear.
Get
Oh,
closer to
yeah.
the mic. There you
This
go.
is what
Yeah,
I
there you go.
like. I want to hear somebody's story of how they actually worked through the issue. And based on their experience.
Oh, you're saying whenever the should is not backed with having been through it. Okay, that makes more sense. Because if I hear someone trying to tell me something, I'm like, well, have you been there?
Right?
If you don't know, you're speaking off theory, which doesn't mean it's not correct, but it's just like, you just wonder,
The
have you done it?
credibility isn't there.
Right.
And if
that.
the credibility
I get
isn't
that.
there, then my trustworthiness isn't there. And then if my trustworthiness isn't, my buy-in's a lot less. So this is what my goal is. Bringing guys like your brother on. Bringing you on. Bringing guys like Nick Vlahos on. Tom Holland back. And talking about each and every one of your experiences through the processes.
Sure.
And proving through the experiences. So essentially, this is like a case study.
Yeah.
I'm walking people through actual case studies of evidence of how mentoring works, of how these strategies work, based on evidence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Because I'm a nerd, man.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what you think. You know, I went to school for 1,000 years, and you know what I learned in there? You can't learn from books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I get it.
All right. So this is what we're trying to do is bring stories, bring live stories to men, to the community, and not guys who are just random, but credible people who've done it, who are in the battle, who are fighting who are living their adventure, who have families, are actively trying and actively fighting and pushing through to be the best husband they can be. Right? That's what I want.
That's good stuff.
Be the best father I can be. Can care less how good of a psychologist I am. I want to be a good husband and father first.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's go.
Yeah, that's the point of all this, is
Let's
bring
go.
this, because I want better fathers. I want better husbands. Do you know what I'm sick of? Real talk.
Go
I'm
for it.
sick of people coming to me with their problems with their kids. And then I ask them, so what, is there anything changes happening? Guess what they say? Oh yeah, my husband's cheating on my wife.
Yeah.
Cheating on me. It's like, what do you want me to do about that? How do you expect me to fix your kid? Your kid's broken because of you.
Yeah, it's like, it's that cliche thing that everybody always shares online. It's like everybody says they'll die for their kids, but it's like, but would you live for them?
Right? Well, that's a lot harder. And
Right.
so that's what I want to bring is real life stories that come to this. So we covered Brad's story. Your story's powerful. And you know what, man? I enjoyed the conversation too. I felt like we got like this much closer.
Yeah, we're going a little deeper together.
You know what I'm
step by step.
saying? Yeah, I felt
good.
like we got to know each other. Today we're taking it a little different.
Okay.
We're pivoting and we're focusing on your hermano, your brother here.
Oh yeah. This is a good one.
And we're and again we're focusing on the main topics. The main topic is this is facts. Mentoring is life. And I would say this, mentoring and discipleship are synonymous. Same thing, baby. We cannot get to our objectives. We cannot get to where we want to be without that discipleship. That's why the Lord passed down that model, right? So I want to unfold. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that to process that word mentoring, because I think today people have a different view of mentoring. They think that mentoring means that someone's going to go and hold your hand and coach you through all the issues of life. And like, let's go walk through how to process your anger, and let me walk you through your grief, and let me walk you through. And it becomes more of almost like walking with a crutch in a lot of ways. And I agree with what you said about mentoring and discipleship being very, very close in parallelism of, you know, what it looks like to be developed under somebody, right? But I also think today mentoring is very different from what I see in the Bible.
Okay. So
Like,
this
very,
is
very different, because
let's
the modern mentor today, I just don't see it in the Bible. And I think we have this messed up view. It's like just because your Instagram says that you're a life coach or a mentor doesn't mean that you're a life coach or a mentor.
maybe
Most people that have ever mentored me are busy, and it's hard to get a hold of them.
Yeah. So
And I think we need to talk about that.
What would we establish as the mentor model that we're discussing?
We established it last time I was up, and we talked about Jesus being the model of discipleship and mentoring.
And it's done through sacrifice of the leader.
Which part? What are you talking about?
Well, I would say what I would look for as a mentor is somebody who's going to love me. Somebody who's going to sacrifice for me. But it's also somebody who I can
But
look
even
up
then,
to.
we get back to like, what does it mean? Like, because if we're looking at Jesus as the perfect model for mentorship, as much as I love Tom Touchstone and the way he mentored me, as much as I love John Eldridge, as much as I love Wild at Heart, Jesus is the perfect picture of what it looks like in the Bible for truth, right? Like, there isn't another version of it. So if you look at the way Jesus did it, you say, okay, so Jesus loved. What did it look like for Jesus to love the people that followed him? Did it look like he was ready at their beck? Did he answer every call?
He was pushing them.
Did Jesus answer every call?
No, he got mad at them when they called on him a ship.
What happened whenever people died and they were calling him to a funeral and he didn't come?
Waited a few days.
Yeah. What happened when Jesus
When they were scared on the ship.
scared on the
When they were
ship,
scared on the
woke
ship
up and
they woke
rebuked
him
them?
up. Why are you waking me up?
What kind of stuff did he speak over their life? He said, "Hey, you're going to deny me." What kind of stuff did he wash their feet? Like the stuff that he did is so controversial and would be so countercultural for today's mentoring. It would be tough to plan a meeting with Jesus. This man was so radical that you would have had to be very secure in the relationship to even begin the process. Like, because the expectations of you're going to be everything I need you to be wouldn't have been there. Like, life coaches will do that for you because they're making money off you.
Well, money,
or because there's a whole industry behind it.
It's
like, rely on me. I'll be right here to answer your calls so that I can up my platform and
But let me ask this, because I see where you're going with that, and you're speaking from the point of view that you're a really busy man with a lot of people that want your attention.
I'm speaking from the point of view of Jesus first, and then from a person following him.
So
yes.
everything you just said, does that mean Jesus wasn't close to his disciples?
No.
Does that mean he wasn't a friend and with them consistently? Because the Jesus I've been reading lately too, because I agree with that.
I love seeing the brothers discuss this.
Well, this is just
right.
great. I just heard this, and it
Lawson's.
said a good shepherd, which we know is Jesus, smells like his sheep.
Yeah.
Which means to smell like your sheep, you're with your people. So I think that there's a fine line. It doesn't mean that, hey, I'm too busy, but I'll check in with you once a month.
So you're right. Two things. Number one, I don't know where that verse is in the Bible, number one. But number two.
What verse? That he was a good shepherd?
No, that he smells like a sheep.
No, I'm telling you, a good shepherd.
So number two.
A good shepherd is someone who's with his sheep.
I agree with that. That's why I'm in the room with you.
And I'm just
So-
seeing
so-
because
so I
I've been
agree with that.
mentored and I'm a mentee.
So here's
the funniest
here's
thing.
my
I'm
point.
having more
So
fun with
he
this
did.
video.
So he did. You're right. You're 100% right. So I agree with you. But I'll say this. I think right now we have a generation of people that are saying, fix me, fix me, fix me, fix me. You're the answer.
So annoying.
When
It's
I
weak.
think that only God can fix us. If I would have looked for Tom Touchstone to be everything to me that I needed him to be, he would have failed me and I would have become bitter and resentful and everything else because it wasn't his job to be that.
And I do agree with that because it places false hope in your mentor.
Yeah. When you-
it places so I was just mean there's a fine line because as a mentee, someone who's been with you and Pastor Tom and people in my life, there's been times where I'm like, I don't know if this person cares about me, and it does. You almost are like,
Really?
are they just not you two, but I mean you two are not that way. But I mean I've had people, I've had people. I'm like, you're doing this as a favor, and it doesn't feel good.
So let's.
you can tell if it's not real.
Yes.
Think
Yes,
about
yes,
this. So
yes.
like one more thing before we leave the Jesus conversation. Those times that you're with him have to be so profoundly impactful that you never question it, that you say, I
Right.
know where I stand with him.
Yeah.
Like that's what I seek after in relationships now. It's like like at our church, just use it for example. When we're in the room together, my prayer is that it's so authentic and the love is so genuine and it's so pure that it ruins you. So you go to another place and you see like the agenda, you see
That's
the hooks, you
that's
see all the other
bar
stuff.
high.
I hope that when you're exposed to something that real, that it absolutely undoes you. You're undone and you're ruined in a good way so that you can only be put back together when you're with that group again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what the church means to me. Like the church,
Yeah.
I completely become undone and I'm only finding myself back together again when I'm with these people. My purpose, my hope, my joy, everything God has done in my life is attached to that group of people in a real way. I don't have to put on any fronts. I'm honest. My brothers, my sisters, my fathers, my sons, my daughters, all of my people are there.
So you're saying the discipleship model. Let's be clear. It's about how Jesus did it, right? And Jesus did it. He followed. This is the thing that he did do.
When he led by example.
He loved
Yeah,
first. He loved God first, and then he loved those others first.
Yes.
And then he spent time with them. When he was with them, was he the nice guy or did he push them?
Both.
He pushed in with it. I definitely believe he was kind, but he pressed in so close it would have messed you up.
And
Because he asked questions that absolutely went deeper into your thought life and your motivations. than you could, you know, like
he's asking questions that never existed in history. So somebody that's gonna love you, somebody's gonna be there with you though. Don't tell me you're gonna mentor me and not be there with me. Somebody that you're gonna feel cared for. Somebody that's gonna push you.
man, I struggle with that expectation.
gotta have that.
See,
And
you
you
gotta
gotta have that.
And that's what I'm saying.
You
I
gotta
believe it's
have
Somebody's
both.
going to be there for me because it's really hard because you let a lot of people down.
Because this is, you know what I look for?
Because I'm coming from a place where I do mentor people.
Let me tell
Right?
you this rule. This is my rule. My rule is this. When you're going to mentor anybody, you're going to be with anybody in any situation, social setting or not, I look at everyone, they have a cup. It's called social equity. I actually learned it from him. I tell everybody, I feel that.
Him is the
Pastor
invisible,
Tom, my
the
bad.
invisible
Pastor T.
maestro, Pastor
What
Tom
I
over
do
here.
is I invest in that cup first. I fill that cup all the way up
Yeah.
through layers of experiences, good experiences, real connections. Fill that cup up. Once I have that cup full, though, then I can speak into your life.
Well, here's and this is a good point because this segues into Kyle because this is going his direction with his story. But the first several years of my life in the church, I was so absorbed in it that I had disconnected from the people that were closest to me. And
Who do you mean by that?
I mean, like my brothers and my sister and my mom.
Is it a bad thing or a good thing?
That depends.
I
guess,
think in the time,
That's
in
where
the
you were
time
at
where
in
to
life.
in life we're in a different place. I will tell you that in my later years, I grieved those years more and more because
Fair.
I felt like I was just too absent. You know, so
I know
coming
how that
back
feels.
now to Bakersfield, it's where we are as we're doing this. I do very little mentoring of anybody anymore. I have a lot of people who ask me for time and stuff, but I won't get into a lot of those relationships because it's very important for me if I have an hour that I want to spend it with Kyle.
Yeah.
It's very important for me to go by and see my brother Ryan, to be able to call my sister, call my mom. Like these,
because you're not trying to feed a million. But and then
you know what I'm saying. So like so the expectations on certain things, I've had to really go.
You had to be everything for everybody.
I'm going right here. This is where God's called me to go.
And
that's your
what
responsibility.
I like, Pastor Tom said it like this one time. And this is like what Brad does now, and like this is what I think you even see Jesus do, is that I don't know if it's like a saying, but Pastor Tom said, I'll bite off as much of this apple as you do. And I go, what does that mean? And what he means is,
what
like,
if we don't
are
share
you
an
willing?
apple?
Yeah, right. But like the idea is like Jesus, whenever you wanted to follow him, it required getting in the trenches, abandoning everything. And like, so a guy who like is going to expect a lot out of you, but then isn't going to do what you say, isn't going to hear you,
you have to meet him there.
Yeah. What am I doing with you? And so you're like, no, that's
not only do I want you to meet me there, I want you to outperform me.
Pastor Tom used to tell me, I'll give you enough rope to hang us both. And I'm like, but why is that the only option?
Why do we have to do
why does anybody have to die? Why do we either
do we need a rope?
Do we even need a rope?
We want to be risky, don't we?
You know,
we want to put it out
and
there,
honestly,
don't we?
when he used to say it, I was like, whoa, he's like Jesus in the flesh with some parable in my mind.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, I don't want to hang either of us, so I'm going to hold on tight to my end. You know, but then now that I'm older, I'm like, why do we either have a rope? Like, why can't we just live in harmony? Why don't we have fellowship and just
one of these years? One of these years, baby. But I think that's taking us into our point.
Yeah.
I think we've established what we think is mentoring.
Yes.
We worked through that for a solid 15 minutes, baby. I like that.
Okay.
And I really do like our outcome too.
Yeah.
We work through what mentoring is. We work through the importance of it if it's followed within that model. We don't want this. You don't want us to hear this silly coaching model.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to establish a clear definition of the model that we're talking about.
Yes.
Now that we've seen that model, you're talking about some of those years where you were absent. You know, I know how that feels. When I was working in Porterville and going to school full time, I didn't see my family.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I finished school, I came back, and I started trying to hang out with my family again. I felt like I didn't belong with my own family.
Yeah.
I felt like I was away at war, and that guilt still eats me up with some of my cousins. So I could understand that.
Yeah.
Now, your brother needed some mentoring, right?
He did.
And this is different because you guys they had different spiritual experiences. Brad came to the Lord first, and then later on you did. You went to Ventura, right? And when you were into Ventura, you were still here, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Where was your walk with God at that time?
When Brad first went to Ventura, how long ago was that?
About 9 years ago.
Yeah, dude,
10 years ago. Okay, so I have to so my daughter's about to be 9, so she would have been just born. My wife and I were early into our marriage. I would say I knew who God was, but I was not a role model for like anything to look up to.
What does that mean?
Like I would say I knew I had a calling. I knew I had purpose. I knew like who God was. I had seen God move in my life big time. I remember there was times I've been really broken, and that's the thing. Like, I think it started because this isn't only my brother. He was like a father to me too. Yeah. Not only spiritually, but in like real life too.
How many years are you apart actually?
30, almost 2.
10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he's kind of like a father as well.
You guys
and I remember,
the same age.
I always think about this. I always remember back to this. I remember I was going through a really tough time, and then Brad had just had Hollis. She was little. She's maybe like 1 year old, right? And he was over at my grandma's house, and they're really worried about me. It was in a bad place, and I remember Hollis was sitting on the bed, and she was a baby, so she had this like pot belly that was sitting out, and he just patted, and he goes, sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. So he just patted and he goes, one day, Kyle, you're going to have one of these and it's going to be all right. And there's always moments of encouragement. Even when I wasn't put together, I'd hold on to those little things. Then I'd screw up for a season or for a few years and he'd still be there, So like it dates back really far, but to speak to specifically, I didn't have the typical, and I don't know if this is wrong or not wrong or right or wrong, but, I didn't have like that moment where I'm like, oh, my life's together. I believe in Christ. I'm going. Yeah. I failed so many times. There was a time I thought I was going to like actual jail for a long time. Brad called me and he goes, I was working at No Fear. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. I'd gotten a little
But did both of you guys work at No Fear?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. It was cool. And so anyways, they'd called my district manager. She called Brad and he called me. He's like, Kyle, what did you? And I remember that phone call and he's like, man, you got to figure this out. And like, so there's several like things I always go back to. I'm like, man. And they were all
having
little
some struggles.
Well, like anybody. Well, Depends on who's anybody, but like,
Hey, I want to ask what those struggles are, bro. I want to get into it. I'm not.
But there's all these moments.
I don't think. I mean, I know. For
I
me
don't
personally,
care.
I
don't care, but I also don't want to like trauma dump on anything.
Yeah.
I just want to keep it.
Yeah.
So there's all these different points in my life where like there's course corrections, like couple steps up the ladder, fall, Brad's there. There's a lot of people, and then, but speaking to that, whenever that started, that's when I know I'm like, okay, I have a calling from God to do something, but it just took a long time to start getting the wheels turning.
Can I speak into that moment? Because as it started to shift for him, I remember I was in Ventura and I was totally focused on what God was speaking to me in Ventura, but something was happening in my brother. And I remember just all I wanted was to make sure he had someone that he could go to.
What do you mean something is happening?
God was moving in his life.
Okay.
Yes.
God was moving in his life. And we had been praying through some business stuff, and he was really seeing answers to prayers. And
that was when things started turning up. The volume started turning up big time.
And he started to go to church. And I remember I was just praying, God, would you give one of these guys a heart for him? Yeah. Would you give one of these guys a heart for him to come around him and help him? And it just seemed like at the church he was at that just nobody was latching on to him. But
and I was trying. That's right.
Yeah, me as a pastor, I'm sitting over there grieving. And I'm going,
hard,
God,
man.
I prayed for so long over this guy's salvation. My brother is coming to the Lord. My heart is rejoicing. Like this is everything. So good.
So how long ago was this?
This was probably 6-7 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah, maybe 6. Yeah, something around there. It was right before
COVID, right?
Yeah, well, for sure. Well, way before that. But I remember I finally called Pastor Tom Touchstone and I said, will you please grab a hold of Kyle right now? Someone just has to give him some vision and lock him in because he's searching over there and there's not a pastor for him right now.
Dude, and it's weird because I had been through some stuff and that's the thing, like I've seen God do crazy miracles and I was not deserving of it.
But what do you mean been through some stuff?
I just, like, there's people I can't relate with. Like you said earlier in the podcast, it's like, you're going to tell me how to get through this. You don't know what I've seen. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the things that I think in my brain. Yeah. And so, like, that's what I mean.
So you're just having connection problems with people?
Well, there wasn't many people that really reached out. But not only that, like, the few people I'm like, oh, they don't know. Like, there was nothing there.
I can see that. Okay. Yeah.
And so, but to his point, that timing was impeccable because you'd been praying that and talking with Pastor Tom. Well, I had been trying to plug in at the church for a while, trying to plug in and hadn't had any ground. Like I just had no one to connect with. And there was this night, it was literally perfect timing. I didn't know he did that with Pastor Tom. And it was like this horrible nightmare. I don't know if it was from God. I don't think it was from God, but it was just like this dark moment in my dreams. And I just remember feeling so disconnected and absent. I'm like, God, but I know you're real. All the stuff I've been told and I've been through and I felt and I've experienced. And I said, if I don't hear from you tomorrow morning, God, I didn't know if I was going to leave it or leave the church, but I was leaving something. And when I say the church, I didn't know if it meant like that location or the church entirely. I don't know what it meant. I just remember I was in such a place where I was like, something's got to give. If this is real, why is it so hard?
It's hard, huh?
That morning is when Pastor Tom sent me a text message. I had no idea. And I mean, at 7 a.m., in my sleep, in this traumatic dream, I'm like, if I don't hear something, I'm done.
That's beautiful.
And then that morning was when Pastor Tom reached out. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. What are the odds of this? I mean, it was that morning.
That's the way God works, man.
It was that morning, dude.
That's the way God works.
Yeah, I've got a scripture. It's do you care if I share this right now?
I don't care at all, man.
I don't know.
As long as it's not too much downtime, how long can you get to it?
You're kind of on the fringe. I don't know if you want Bible verses on here.
No, I'm on the fringe on time.
No, it says that
I love Bible
talking
verses.
about the shepherds of the flock in Ezekiel 34. It said, "Woe to the shepherds of Israel who have been feeding themselves when they should have fed the flock. You eat the fat and you clothe yourselves with the wool and you slaughter the fat sheep. But those who were sickly you have not strengthened, and the disease you have not healed, and the broken you have not bound up, and the scattered you have not brought back, and you have not sought for the lost, but instead you've dominated them." I felt like in that season I was crying out for a shepherd to come and heal the broken.
Yeah.
And I could not do it. I don't believe you can pastor from a distance. There was a guy, a friend of ours in Vegas went through a really bad time as a pastor, and he had said, "You're my pastor." Like talking to me. And I said, if I'm your only pastor, I'm not doing a good job of it. it's hard to say someone's your pastor if it's just a media personality or just someone on a screen or whatever. It just doesn't work.
That goes
that
back
way.
to our point of mentorship.
Yeah.
You need somebody there.
So I
to push.
agree. I push back on what I said about Jesus and the disciples, not because I don't think proximity is
I get
important.
what you're saying in context.
Proximity is very, very important.
Yeah.
And like where I say, I'm very careful about what I put out there for expectations with people now, because I know my limitations. And I know that like, if I have a free Saturday to go to a different city and pastor somebody, I'm probably going to go and do dinner with my brothers and my sister.
Hey, but that's the phase you're in.
And I wish that I could right now in my life with kids and stuff. It's like I can blink and 6 weeks goes by.
That's the phase you're in.
Yeah.
And so I like that, dude. I love that verse because, that's been always my beef with the church because I've always been in the trenches, right? I'm in the schools and not in the rich schools. I'm in the poor schools. The people that I go in the homes are off Union and 4th Street next to Emerson. The homes that I'm going are off of Flower Street. Those are the kids that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And I see all these churches all around here. And then I see all these broken people. So I can understand that.
You see, how many meetings are we going to have about the foyer? How many meetings are we going to have?
How do we raise church attendance?
Yeah. And really, people are hurting. The kingdom of God is Jesus, like he says, freely it's come to you, freely give. And he just wants us to go and just extend it out.
Pain. There's real pain.
It's like, just go, like do something. Like it's not about us. Like the cross should end the ego and the pursuit of holding on to everything.
And I think that I love hearing this and I love the conversation because we're really bringing it back to what we want to push the church to.
And going back to Kyle, it's like, for me, it goes to one thing. Like the older I get, the less I try to be everything for everybody.
Yep.
Because I can't.
Well, you're setting up a very unattainable target.
Yeah, it's very hard for me. So like for me, the older I get, the more one thing matters. One small thing that's done really well matters.
Yeah.
And Kyle, so how is that experience of mentorship? So now that we got here, how's the experience of mentorship been?
So, this is a really long, potentially long answer, but so Brad's always been my mentor / brother / father. He's never left that.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's ended. I still don't think where I think our relationship has matured is that we could go a month without talking. We have one phone call and it's like we never stopped.
Yep.
It's a little bit because there's so many hats. Now with him, having that conversation with Pastor Tom and then that mentorship started, I learned a lot from Pastor Tom and I went into it thinking like, am I going to learn anything from this guy? And I just was thinking like, am I going to learn anything? Like I knew it was God divine and appointed the time, the season, the everything.
You still had your doubts though.
Well, I just was like, what am I here for? What am I supposed to? And then I show up and he goes, well, hey, come to church. I need you to switch. Or he said, hey, come to Cal State campus. That's what it was. I was like, there. So my family's at Cal State. And I'm like, well, what do I do next? And it was just like, just be along for the ride.
Hang out with me and I'll drop you off somewhere.
Mine was green.
There was there was no itinerary. It was just like strap up and just be ready. And just it's next thing you know, I'm on all these podcasts. I'm doing all these things. I'm helping in Man Cave. I'm helping all these different things. And I'm like, this dude, he just roped me in. And he never,
roped you, bro.
But he never even, I didn't have a chance.
No.
And so it was cool. So that season and Pastor Tom today, similar with Brad, we can go a very long time without speaking, but we pick up where we left off. It's like there was no time that was in between.
How did that season impact you? And you're like, because the whole point of the mentorship to me, I want to know how it's affecting your life. How's it affecting your career? How's it affecting you as a father? How's it affecting you as a husband?
Yeah, it's through specifically, you mean that but it's mentorship in general with them too?
All of it.
Okay.
All of it.
So I'm telling you, it's insane how my life has been impacted just by having people model and encourage, Christ and stuff into my life like that, right? And so what I would say is questions when it comes to kids, I call and it's like I get sound wisdom backed 99% of the time by scripture. I call with business advice and it's like, hey, remember, Brad always points it back to, hey, remember, we don't think like normal people. Your business is blessed by God. So you don't, and so then I go to Pastor Tom and he's like, you got to, create a job, keep people busy, keep them tied in. It's like, oh, so I got to keep my guys busy. I got to keep them involved. And so in every aspect, whether it was my marriage, whether it was business, absolutely it's impacted it, in those ways. And then, gosh, when it comes to having little ones, Brad's little ones aren't that little anymore. Pastor Tom's are. They're almost my age. And it's like I see how they're amazing young women creating these families and doing these things. And then I see my oldest niece is Hollis, amazing, bright young girl. And then so are my other nieces. And it's like I don't really have to hear them say much. I watch what they're doing.
That's brilliant. From 2 episodes ago, I think, or whenever I was on last, remember, I watched the life of men in the church because both Kyle and I, we didn't have an example.
Yeah.
So what's it supposed to look like? You just watch somebody. Like, that's what I was trying to say about mentoring is Jesus said, follow me. And then he basically demonstrated the life and then handed them the authority to go live the life.
Independently
of him with the Spirit. Does that make sense?
It's still independent.
He said it's actually to your advantage that I'm not there.
Yeah.
That's a wild concept to think that mentoring for Jesus was, let me give you the keys to the kingdom and empower you to go live it without me.
Yeah, and let me give 2 examples to that, to both of them. So Brad specifically on this one, there's been a few times where fear has consumed me. It's just this thing in my head, and fear and anxiety has consumed me at different parts. Brad didn't put it on a calendar to check in with me every day. He'd course correct. Kyle.
What were those fears, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, dude, I mean, my brain's been dark. I don't know, death, just me dying,
so fear of
kids
death?
dying, just irrational thoughts. And it's just very quick course correction. He's like, you know what you're called for, you know your purpose, you know what you have in Jesus, and you know what you have. And he goes, cut it out. I mean, in a very loving way. But then it's just like, okay, but then I knew, now it's my job to execute. Pastor Tom, hey, do I put my kids in private school? Do I not put? He goes, Kyle, the foundation for their life is going to be built in the home. Private school or not private school. He didn't have to sit there and call me every day. Well, what are you doing at home? I'm like,
so beautiful.
I can't put it all in the home.
I love that.
And so I think that's the side of the coin that Brad's talking about.
Yeah.
It's not, a mentorship is not a babysitter.
Oh, heck no.
Yep.
And this is because, can I tell you what the research shows in my field about if you have a person, say you have a kid with a disability, not disability, you have somebody next to them, a one-on-one, right? You think when you put a one-on-one next to a kid to fully focus on that kid, you think you're going to get some results, right? You're going to get the bloom that's going to work. You're going to see this kid turn into a beautiful adult. You know what the research shows? When you give them one-on-one, it actually makes them dependent.
Yeah, I could see that.
And the studies have shown that they actually produce less and become less likely of a community citizen because now they are completely dependent on the system and on people.
Interesting.
So that's why this is why I'm always pushing independence. I don't want you to see me for 10 years. I don't want to do counseling for that long. I don't like that. First of all, people bore me. But the point is,
I like it.
Is thought replacement and skill building for independence.
Yep.
But we believe something different. So I could sell that to people and I could build processes that will work and help heal people. But when you add in the Holy Spirit and you add in prayer to those same beautiful scientific processes, do you know what you get? Dang near every time, transformation.
For sure. And there's the Bible verse, 1 John, that says that you have no need for someone to teach you, but the anointing will actually teach you. Talking about what's in you. Will teach you along the way. That is beautiful right there. I love that. Yeah.
The new covenant is that it's on my heart now. It's on my conscience, which means all I got to do become present, reflect, pray, seek guidance, and all of a sudden I have access to all the mysteries of the universe.
Looking at the transformation, you should have seen this guy when he was younger. I had him in the youth. He was the most controversial youth speaker ever. Now he's here preaching.
Well, I've been through hell.
Yeah.
And then I came back.
I know. And look at you. He's sitting here. I'm afraid to bring a Bible verse on his podcast.
I know. That's why I was like, I think you haven't talked to me in a while.
Yeah, I know. Because that last time, you and your generation of church leaders didn't want to really get into a whole lot of that, but
because you know why? We had to learn. We had to really learn how to deal with our wounds of the church, which are very petty wounds compared to most people, and really use that to push the church forward.
That's good.
It's not about what the church did wrong with me. It's about how can I really problem solve those issues to make sure people don't repeat that. That's it. That's why I'm there. That's why we're all here. And that's all it is. But yet, we're at 34 minutes. I want to hear one last thing from you, man. Yeah?
Oh, gosh.
Ready for it? I'm going to set you up. No time to think. Yeah?
I'll rapid fire, but I'm a thinker.
No. Just shoot it. Shoot it. Okay, if there's one thing you can leave the viewers about one thing that can apply to help them in their lives today, what would it be?
Oh, gosh, dude. For someone like me, that's tough.
Shoot from the gut.
So one thing to leave people with that I guess would, something that is big for me, a season of life that I'm going through, I think, would be, I guess, prioritize what's there. Okay, well, now I'm thinking there's two things. Prioritize what's important. So for me, like to Brad's point that he was talking about earlier, I get caught up sometimes thinking like I need to be the highest paid real estate salesperson in the world. I need to do this. And I just realized like that's just not what so I have my wife, I have my kids, I have my job, and then I have my faith. Like really put that in perspective of what's important, because a lot of people will chase things. And I always this is just for me personally, I would get caught up chasing the wrong thing. Yep. That's what I'm leaving with. I get caught up chasing the wrong thing, and I don't want to stay in that lane too long where I'm like, oh crap, I lost a lot of time doing something that was not as important as the other thing.
Even if it is making money, huh?
Even if it is,
Even if it is doing all those wonderful things, people would probably look at you and be like, yeah, you're killing it. But you'd reflect and be like, no.
Yeah, but I didn't get to drop my daughter off at school every day for her third year of school, or my,
That's your priority.
Yeah, so don't spend too long chasing the wrong thing, I think.
I love it.
Would be that.
I love it.
So good.
And that's where, the one thing, and that's the one thing that leads, not the one thing, one of the many things that leads people to depression, you know what it is when their lifestyle is not aligned with their core values.
Yeah, I could see that.
And what I mean by that, literally, the time that you live in your day is not aligned with the things that you care about the most.
Yeah, it's good. Good word.
All right, everyone. This is a fun episode. I knew it was going to be. Getting to know you guys, to me, honestly, getting to know the people, the guests. I think you guys getting to know me too. Mm-hmm. I think that's what this is all about. But it's more than that. The whole point of this is to make people better fathers and better husbands. If you need help and if you need to go somewhere, there's churches out there that are readily available, right? There's Valley Bible, there's Two Trees, there's many places that you can go to. But if you're not about that, there's also other places. There's mental health agencies like mine, but there's also an event that I'm going to do on January 6th that's going to focus whether you go to church or not go to church, whether church is your thing or you've been split apart. And the fact is you feel disconnected. You feel you've been successful, things are going well, but you still feel like there's something empty here. I feel like I can still, I have my fears. I have these things that are controlling me.
Yeah, you're checking the box, doing the work, and something's not right.
And it's still not right. Well, this is where you have guys like Tom touched on, Hector Rizo, and myself helping you guide you guys. All right. Thank you for joining us. Like and subscribe. Peace with some chicken grease.